Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Terran strategy. Now in this replay, our Terran player here is Tarson, and our Terran opponent is Envious. Let's go right into Tarson Vision here. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time because if anything wild and zany happens during this cast, I need to let you know that I am incredibly overly tired. If you tweet me or Twitter me or tumble me or whatever, if you follow me on the internet somehow, you'll know that I stayed up way too late last night, and as such, I'm overtired at this point the next day. So anyways, we're looking at a Terran strategy today. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the 1-1-1 build, and it's called the 1-1-1 build because it involves getting one of each building. Don't know what is so complex about this. It has nothing to do with Destiny, a Cloud, or a Fist. Freaking A. So we're looking at the 1-1-1 build, starting off pretty standard, getting a 10 supply depot. Going to be following that up with a 12 Barracks, 13 Refinery, 16 Orbital Command. This is pretty much repetitive in every single Terran game because that is what we normally see. Why are we getting the 1-1-1 build? We're getting that because it is the most versatile build, it provides us with the most options, and it's going to really put you in the best position. This is especially true in Terran vs. Terran. You really need to be on top of something like this unless you intend on pushing incredibly early with something like an early Marine push. And then you are really going to be in a whole heap of trouble if your opponent knows what they're doing and they're going for this type of build. It's basically just the default TVT build. And specifically, yes, we are looking at a mirror matchup here. I do intend on covering mirror matchups for my next 3 casted games, so you can expect Protoss and Zerg mirror matchups coming up as well. Specifically, the reason is because I realized that we were lacking a bit of those, and in coming up with the website now, I'm going to be separating all of these strategies that we do by matchup as well as race to make it easier for you guys to look for what you want, look for what you want to improve on, and hopefully that proves beneficial. So Orbital Command coming down at 16, Barracks is up, coming out with that initial Marine. Now after this, our next decision-making process, again going for that 1-1-1 build, we are going to be getting a factory. Now something I do want to note is that there isn't any scouting going on at this point. You would like to see some sort of scout to check for anything fancy. Now I'm going to say specifically in this matchup, Tarson is not moving out with a scout solely for this reason. In this game, I just think he doesn't assume his opponent is going to be going for anything fancy. Now, I'll tell you straight up, in any of your games from bronze up to diamond, assumptions make an ass out of you and me. Assumptions are not something you want to do in your games. Do not make assumptions. Play the safe role, essentially. Make sure you do that ever important early game scouting, because the last thing that we would want to be seeing right now is 5 Marines or 6 Marines walking up into our base, which it's a possibility going for this factory, getting the second refinery, if our opponent instead spent this on additional barracks. In fact, for all we know, there could be 3 barracks sitting right here. We just haven't scouted. There's no reason not to do that, and I just really want to emphasize that for you guys. Now you can see no attachments have been going down yet. The purpose in this is because we want to save that 100 Vespian to get the Starport up as quickly as possible. Any attachments that we would have placed down would have set us back in Vespian, and as such would have made it so that we wouldn't be able to get that Starport up immediately. Also, the other thing to note is that something that I discuss every single time we go for any sort of tech build on our channel here, anytime we ever discuss any tech build, it's that in teching up you're susceptible early on. As such, you need to have some sort of forces. So getting these Marines non-stop instead of putting an attachment is how we kind of supplement the fact that we're sacrificing an early game army and going for this fast tech. So that's the purpose behind that. This Hellion going to be scooting around there looking for anything fanciful going on behind there, and also that's going to be to avoid any Xel'Naga towers. Essentially, he's just trying to get his guy into the base without his opponent knowing. So pushing up there, we see a pretty heavy mass of Marines. Essentially, we see the same thing that we are getting because he is likely going for that 1-1-1 build as well. Again, like I stated, unless you go for a really early push, if you don't go for 1-1-1 in Terran vs. Terran, it can really put you behind. The other option is maybe to go straight up a Barracks heavy, Marine Marauder, and tank, but the problem with that is if your opponent goes cloaked Banshees and you go Marine Marauder tank and he gets it out in time, then you're in trouble. And in fact, that's specifically what we're going to be seeing here. We're going for the 1-on-1. We're going to be getting this cloaked Banshee here. Now going to go to timings before we see any big engagement or anything. 18 supplies when we saw that factory going down, 20 supply was that second refinery, 22 supply seeing the starport, and then 35 seeing the engineering bay. Now, we can assume in most cases that our opponent's going for a 1-1-1 build. As such, getting this engineering bay is a wise decision, because if our opponent was mirroring what we were doing, then we could expect Banshees, because we are going for Banshees. Banshees is an excellent unit. A Banshee, or Banshees in general, an excellent unit to use in Terran vs. Terran, because it forces your opponent to do a couple things. It forces them to either throw down turrets in their base, wasted minerals. It forces them to use scans, wasted minerals. Realize that every mule you drop could be 300 minerals. If you instead spend that on a scan, those 50 energy on a scan, just to try to take out a Banshee, that puts you behind. So it forces your opponent to make those decisions. The other option is, of course, to go for a Raven. That would be his other decision. Again, that's kind of forcing him into a certain tech path. So moving out with this Banshee at this point, also going to be dropping our expand here. We're dropping our command center at 52 supply. Finally getting a tech lab on this barracks. This is going to allow us to kind of switch things up from just going for this marine heavy army. We're going to be able to come up with some marauders. And I told you something funny would probably happen. Didn't have the production tab up that whole time. I apologize. The replay is available for you. You can download it yourself. I'm not doing this again. So Cloak going down here, going to be taking out his units. This is something really important that you want to be able to do. Again, having Cloak Banshees, very, very beneficial. This is a really good idea in this matchup because, again, it's forcing your opponent into these certain situations. So he's going to either have to blow a scan. Something else I want to talk about is just Banshee positioning in general. You don't really ever want to just waltz right over units that could attack your Banshee. You kind of want to stay on the edge of that. That way, if a scan goes down, you have ample room to run away. That's the idea. Stay out of range, or just barely out of the range of those ranged units, so that if a scan does go down, you're all set. So at this point, the transition that we're looking at, you can see that the siege tanks are out here on the board, also getting these medevacs now. That's going to help with the mobility of our units, as well as that's going to help to assist these marines and marauders that we're going to be coming out with as well. So starting off with the 1-1-1, that transition that we are seeing some Thors here, and you have to realize that if you see Thors, if you see more Thors than you do siege tanks, marines and marauders, that's a good choice. That is definitely a good decision. Marines and marauders can make very quick work of Thors, and that's where that decision to go barracks heavy at this point happened. So in the 1-1-1 build, what are you looking to do generally? Generally speaking, you want to open with some sort of harassment. You can choose whatever it is. You can choose to open with a Hellion harassment, maybe a Hellion drop, or you can choose to open with a Banshee harassment. We chose to open with a Banshee harassment. The next decision as far as what you're getting for buildings and what your tech choice is going to be based primarily off what your opponent is going for. Now again, like I mentioned, we saw Thors, and in going for those Thors, he was lacking siege tanks, so a good idea at that point would be go Marine Marauder heavy. Again, they make quick work of Thors, and with only a couple of tanks, especially with the recent nerf, you know, tanks are not nearly as illustrious as they used to be. With those nerfs, you are able to quickly take down tanks, especially with those Marauders. It just takes far too many shots. You can definitely run up on siege tanks and take them out. And then, of course, if you can ever catch them out of position when they're moving, when they're out of siege mode, then that's going to put you in a good spot as well. So we do have this expansion up. Expansions go up generally when we are pushing out or when we're being aggressive. And specifically, again, that timing for this expansion was 52, and you would have noted at that time we also, you can see here, only one tank. It's going to be a good idea. We're going to stim pack up, move up, take out that tank first thing, and then look, Thor's really not standing much of a chance against our units there. The problem with the Thor is that, you know, it's not splash damage as opposed to if he had gotten tanks instead. Without that splash damage, it's easy for our small, cheaper units to take it out pretty effectively. So at this point, you know, we fought off that aggression. The other thing to note is that really wasn't too threatening to us. His tanks were right up here, yes, but the majority of our buildings were actually far away from the tank, and that's speaking specifically to building placement, which is something I actually haven't gone into much in a lot of our videos, but it is something I do want to start to cover. Against Terran players, in Terran vs. Terran, you want to play kind of centralized. For this very reason, tanks on the edge of your base could destroy any buildings you have. It's another reason why you don't block off against Terran as Terran. It does little to nothing for you. In fact, a lot of times it hinders you more than it helps you. You can see here at this point, Tarsin feeling pretty confident in dropping 2 expansions, in fact, at both of these positions here. Scanning, we are seeing that he's got this setup. Luckily, all we see is 1 siege tank. Again, Marines and Marauders, not so good against siege tanks, but they are good against siege tanks in small numbers. When there's only a couple siege tanks, you can stim up, you can get right up on them, take them out pretty quickly before they do too much damage, and that's going to be the idea. We're going to see the stim go down. I'm going to be trying to move up, snipe that down, and then take care of everything else, and he does call it good game. So let's just take a look at that build order, guys. Start off with that 10 supply depot, following it up with a 12 barracks, which was somewhere over here. 13, we saw that refinery. 16, that orbital command. All of that very standard. 18 supply going for that factory. 20 supply getting our second refinery. 27 is when we saw the starport. 35, engineering bay. The thought process behind this, again, being that we can kind of expect our opponent to be going for this 1-1-1, and if they are exactly mirroring our build and they're going with that fast Banshee, we're going to want this engineering bay to get 1 or 2 turrets. The primary goal is to just give our Marines vision. Obviously, if he runs into the turret like a big dummy, he's going to take damage from it, but the primary goal is to give our Marines vision so that we can snipe it as it's trying to pass by. 35 supply, also seeing that cloaking field research going down for our Banshees, and then at 52 we got that expansion here. Also, key things to note, moving out with that Banshee, when you're being aggressive, when you're attacking your opponent and just harassing with your Banshee, make sure you don't sit right above units that could attack it if a scan goes down. Try to stay outside of their firing range as much as possible. That way, when the likely scan comes, you can move out of the scanning field far away from those units that could do you any damage, and then just move right back in. So once again, guys, this has been Force Strategy Gaming. Sorry for my overtiredness and anything wild and zany that I may have said. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Hey guys, what's up? I forgot to mention this at the end of my cast like I intended on, but we are going to be voting for a new official logo for Force Strategy Gaming. You can see that here, but what you're going to want to do is go over to www.forcestrategygaming.com. On the front page, there's a little post about it, as well as on the right-hand side, there is a voting poll, so you can choose your favorite one. Now, this was a great success from Cody Anderson of Bolo Graphics from Hawaii, so go ahead, go there, vote for your favorite one. Yes, that was a Borat impression. Very nice. Damage from the Thors. Now, what you can do to counteract that is going to be coupling your Thors with some Marines. Marines are very strong against Mutalisks, especially once you start to get Marines in large numbers and you have things like Stim Pack and Combat Shield. You can see we've got that Combat Shield coming right now.